and then delete this one. And then this, get rid of that.
Yes, sir.
Make these about the same size.
Even though that particular badge there is for media composer, but I say leave it because it gives them a good reference, you know. 'Cause that's
Wait.
It's a media composer badge, but
Good
still,
catch.
But still, I think it's good that it's there because then they will understand.
Glad you caught that. Good eye. If you didn't catch it, Brian would have caught it.
Hey, two professionals. That's not special.
Damn it. What? See there. Oh wait, no. But there was another specialist.
Yeah.
Oh, they're both media composer.
You got an email from? You don't have an email for me, do you? Because I got them both in my email.
I think I do. Yeah, that's what I might have to do.
Word. I should click on Pro Tools then.
It's probably going to be like really distorted and not the right size. All right, hold on.
Format.
Hold on.
One at the top. Well, if I responded back, I guess.
Yeah. All right. Cool.
Darn it! Did I respond from my phone?
I don't see it.
Yeah, because I probably responded from my phone with that one.
Hmm.
I'll send you one right now.
Remember you had that quick and dirty.
Oh yeah. There you go. Oh, those are instructor badges. Darn it! Don't worry about it, man. Just put the.
We'll use the media composer, and we could just tell Brian we tried. All right, and so then it was take these two and do it like this, and
Copy that one.
can't do it.
Gives them variety.
Right, we're about to go in 3.
Oh.
Yeah, right. Oh, 3 minutes.
3 minutes.
Thanks.
All right.
I was
Sorry,
like,
I
what?
count-
That might be a
started
little
counting
quick.
down.
3, 59, 58.
Slide done.
Yeah,
Right at the buzzer.
yeah. It's like
Austin Reed.
guys' keynote games.
It's like Austin Reed's doing that shot from beyond half court.
Yeah.
It makes it.
There we go. And then actually what I'll do is I'll just take that out of there so it'll just be these. You know, I almost wonder if we just because we want to talk about the fact that they're going to get a badge, but it's really about being professional certified.
Yeah.
I almost want to just get rid of this and make it about this. Boom.
Get rid of what? Oh. No, that's a good point though. That's a very good point. It makes them want to go for the whole profession.
Right. Yeah. Then they don't have nothing to do with certification until they get there. I was making sure nothing in your verbiage looks at audio workstations. Okay. Oh, what if I fail a test?
Oh yeah, that's a good one. Yeesh.
Seconds.
Boy. 3 minutes don't go that fast in my microwave.
No way. No way. That was not 3 minutes. I disagree.
Yeah, I guess you want to go ahead and put
All
that
right.
in slides.
Hold on.
right?
I got to get this thing to cooperate here. That's going to drive me nuts.
10 seconds. I'm just putting unnecessary pressure.
Oh, okay.
5. I'll count it in that, please. All right, here we go.
All right.
Hang on. Screen started. 5.
All right.
All right. Welcome to our audio production town hall. Every month we're talking about various topics from mixing and plugins to various people in the industry and many more topics. But today we have a special conversation to have with you. We are going to talk about Pro Tools certification. My name is Brad Barbey. I'm the course director for Audio Workstations, and my co-host today
My name is Kendall Bens. I am course director for Advanced Audio Editing Techniques.
And so the reason we're both doing this today is because Pro Tools certification happens through both of our courses. And so Audio Workstations, when you come into Audio Workstations in your first year of the degree program, that's where the first step of your Pro Tools certification takes place. And then part 2 happens when you get to Advanced Audio Editing Techniques. So the way it's kind of set up here is, if we're talking about Pro Tools certification in general, the end goal is that you want to get Pro Tools certified. And so what that is there is that's a digital badge, and we'll talk more about that here in just a little bit. But the end goal is to be a Pro Tools certified professional. And so really the first step of that is going to be in Audio Workstations. And so when you get into Audio Workstations, you know, we'll go through all the Pro Tools setup conversation and all that. And then during the month, we're going to be talking about a multitude of Pro Tools processes and workflows and things like that. At the start of the class, you are going to get the 101 and the 110 books. And so those will be good books to read and reference while you're working in the class. But just to kind of stress it, the class is not teaching directly out of the books. There are a lot of subjects that we talk about in class that do compare to material that's in the books, but the class is going much deeper than what is in the 101 and 110 books. So, you know, as the slide says, taking the class is not going to be exactly everything that you're going to need in order to do well on the Pro Tools certification test. And so you're really going to have to read the books. And so maybe we can talk in a little bit about kind of the way to do that, you know. So you take Audio Workstations, and then you're going to need to achieve a certain grade, and that can all be covered in detail when you get to the class. But you'll hit a certain grade in that class, and then if you do, then you'll get a notification from me a couple weeks after the class ends to let you know that you've qualified for the certification test, and then that first part of the testing process can begin. So here it says, pass the 110 certification and receive a certified specialist digital badge from Credly. One thing I wanted to say about that was fortunately, the way that this works is that, you know, the 110, let me say it like this, the 110 is the certification test, but there's also a nice setup where you can kind of take a test assessment, right? So it's called the 101 assessment. And so what that's nice is it gives you an opportunity to make sure that you're kind of, if you will, up to snuff on what you need to know for the test. But if you don't pass that assessment, then you haven't given up one of your exam attempts. And so you take that assessment, you kind of figure out, you know, do I understand what I need to understand? And then that gives you the best way to set up to take then the actual 110 certification. And then if you do pass that 110 certification, then you'll get your badge from a company called Credly. So let's say that all that happens, and you've got your digital badge from Credly. You know you've finished step 1 of the certification. So now we're going to fast forward, and then you're a couple months from graduation, and then you're in Kendall's class, and then Kendall can kind of talk to you about that process in his class.
So the process is very similar to his process. Once you get to my class, which will be roughly about, I'll say 3 to 4 months before graduation, you'll be in a position to actually move up to become a certified professional. So you got specialists in this class, you get professional in my class. There is a certain grade that you have to get to be eligible for to actually take the exam. And a big question that comes up to me a lot, if I didn't become eligible in audio workstations and I become eligible in your course, will I be able to go back and take the 110? And the answer to that question is yes, okay? So in my class, if you become eligible, you will be able to take the 110 to get the specialist and then move on to professional. Now, if you did get the specialist badge in his class, then you would just simply move on to the professional badge. And the process is exactly the same. You will have to associate your Avid account with Full Sail University. You will roughly get an email from me about 2 weeks after you finish the course, letting you know that you're eligible and congratulating you. And it will give you steps in associating your Avid account to Full Sail University. You will then let me know by replying to that email. And then I will get you all set up for your next exam. And if you pass, everything is all good, you will be taking a 210 exam. I don't have an assessment, so it will just be the one exam, which you will still have to study from both the 201 book and the 210 book, all right? So those two books will comprise all the questions you'll be asked in the 210 exam to get your professional levels badge there. Let's see.
Can I daisy chain into something real quick here? So the one thing I wanted to clarify, because we've been using this term about badges and specialist badge and user and these things. Like, for example, let me just back up here a second. So actually, no, I want to go forward, pardon me. I guess I got rid of this line. The badge in general, pardon me. But so again, this is the final badge that you would get if you worked yourself all the way through Kendall's class. When you finish audio workstations and you take the first Pro Tools 110 test, you do get a badge that's called user certification. But what I want to stress is that really only means that you've finished the prerequisite in order to be Pro Tools Professional Certified. So your end goal, the only thing you really want to think about is, my goal is to be Pro Tools Professional Certified. User just means that you've finished step one, right? That's just like a
specialist, right?
That's a pardon?
A rather specialist.
Yeah, I'm sorry, because I'm referring to an old reference of what the badge was called. Thank you. But so that first specialist step is, again, it's a prerequisite. Think of it like that. And so just to kind of embellish on, or to add into something else Kendall said about, and so the way that he was saying it was, a student would get to advanced audio editing techniques, and they would say, hey, I didn't qualify in audio workstations, meaning they didn't get the proper grade in order to be able to take the 110 test. And so if they got to Kendall in advanced audio editing techniques, then they would need to hit his grade requirement in order to take the 110 at that point, because then that's the prerequisite to get into the 200 test. And so the other thing I wanted to add in real quick is that when I send out the notification after a couple weeks when you're done with audio workstations, you go through a process that we'll talk about. And then what's happening is students are messaging me back and they're saying, so because I'm saying, hey, here you've qualified to take the specialist certification, you should finish this test in the next 30 days. And so students are messaging back and they're saying, well, I don't really want to take the test right now. How long do I really have? And there is a little flexibility in there, but the problem is, I think what some students are doing is they're thinking that things are going to be so much better and it's going to make so much more sense when they get to Kendall because they're going to have all this extra Pro Tools experience, but really that's not the way to approach it. So if you don't hit the grade and you've got to qualify for specialist certification in Kendall's class, then that's what it is. You're just going to have a crunch to get the material done. But if you get qualified in audio workstations, we can correspond through email and I can kind of give you a strategy, but pushing it back and avoiding that because maybe it just feels like too much right now is not the right recipe, because there's a better way to handle that. So I just want to kind of throw that out there, that avoiding everything till you get to Kendall is really not going to be a good recipe for doing well.
And to add on to that real quick is because you're giving yourself almost a year to really kind of get this one thing out of the way. If you wait till you get to my class, which is about 3 to 4 months before you graduate, you're going to be in a big crunch between your last few classes and actually graduating to try to take these exams and study from 4 books. So you don't want to go through that hard process. I see students do it all the time, and they're waiting until like the last month right before graduation to try to cram it in, and wondering why they're not retaining enough information from the books. Is because you just cramming it in, and it's just making it a lot harder for a lot of students. So if you have the opportunity to get it done, the specialist level at least done at his course, then get it done there. So all you have to worry about is the professional when you get to my course. To go ahead and end things off, as far as doing the professional thing, so if you end up in a situation in which you don't pass the exam, or let's say you end up in a situation where you are starting at the 110 at my course, when you finish that 110 and you do pass, you should email me so I can get you queued up for the 210. I would highly suggest that you email me within the same email thread that I started the email with. That way I can look through the thread and I know that you did the 110, you passed the 110, you already associated, and then we can go ahead and move on to the professional level, and everything works out fine like that. You want to talk strategy?
No, I was just going to say, because you used that phrase that we've been using, so maybe we'll dig into that.
Okay.
About the whole, and this is going to come up when you get a notification from me about your eligibility for the Pro Tools test, okay? And so it's also, you could wind up getting this notification from Kendall as well. So what we're talking about is this term called associating yourself with Full Sail. So let's just say in either course, you get an email that says, hey, congratulations, you are eligible to take the certification test. You need to associate yourself with Full Sail. So if you want to elaborate on what exactly that process is.
All right, that process, and when you do get that congratulatory email from me, I will have a step-by-step guide to associating your Avid account to Full Sail University. But how the process works is within your Avid account, you can associate yourself with a Avid learning partner, all right? Of course, Full Sail University is an Avid learning partner, and so you need to associate your Avid account with the Avid learning partner that you actually get your Avid education from, which is Full Sail University. So you basically search through the database and find Full Sail University and say, hey, I'm associated with this school. That puts your account in my view to go ahead and enable for you to go ahead and start taking the exams. Same process happens in Brad's class as well.
Yeah, and so I would say, and I'm just going to kind of make up a percentage here, but I would say that, it's probably 75%, as just a rough percentage, of students are going to get that information about associating with Full Sail from me, because once you're in the system, then Kendall, when you get there, would be able to find you. But again, if somebody were to not qualify in audio workstations, they might not get the request to associate until they got to Kendall. So that's why we kind of wanted you to see it that way, because one of us could be sending you an email about associating with the school. So then the other one was about preparing for the test.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Everybody has their strategies in preparing for these tests. A strategy that always worked with me is that if you look at your 101, 110, the 201 and the 210 books, there's questions at the end of every chapter, okay? If you were to go directly to those questions, read that question and just seek through the chapter to find the answer to that question. By the time you've gotten to the end of the book and went through every chapter answering those questions, you would be totally prepared, because those are where most of those your questions you're going to actually get on the exam, they're kind of pretty much kind of loosely taken from those questions at the end of every chapter. So if you can answer all those questions at the end of the chapters in each one of those books, you will be totally prepared for the exam. Trust me on that.
And on that note too, a big question that I get with certification is, a student will come up to me and it's kind of like this hushed tone of like, so what's the way that I'm really going to study for the test? Like, how should I really study for the test? And I'll just be, straight up, it's read the books, because, through the years, we've done, recertification, and we've gone through the process. And then when new Avid books come out, I read through them. And so I've read through multiple versions of the Avid books. And so it's just, I try to treat it like a day one thing. Like if a new set of books shows up, it's like I crack it open and I just start reading. And, I'm a little particular about the way that I take some notes and things. I always like to just use Mac notes. And then if I pull a little piece for some reason that stands out to me, or if there's a call out of, hold this combination of keys and you can do this inside the software, I crack open Pro Tools and then I'll actually do that. And so I would say, the more methodical, the better, rather than thinking like, okay, I just need to read this bullet point on this page or this bullet point on this page. So to directly what Kendall said, yes, at the end of the chapter there's questions, so like that is going to be your big focus, right? So then when you get to the end of the chapter, that's what you do. You take all those questions and you look them up and you read and you study and you build yourself a little notebook in a sense, because once you get through all the chapters, that's what you're going to use as your kind of study guide for before you go and actually attempt, well, let's say that it's, audio workstations, before you attempt the 110. You're going to go through all those notes and really work through it. The other thing that I will say too about preparing, and it can feel like, sometimes it's like I want a shortcut, like, oh man, it's taking way longer than I thought it was going to take to read through these chapters. Well, it's about giving yourself a realistic picture of how you need a strategy, right? You got to have a vision of when the test is going to happen, and then you got to have a strategy how you're going to get there. So what it is if I tell you that you're going to get an email, let's just say it's 3 weeks after Audio Workstations ends, or 4 weeks after Audio Workstations ends. Well, that's going to be, let's just call it a month because it's easy, a month till you're going to have to take the test, right? So then back it up 4 weeks into when you get the books and Audio Workstations. Well, the test you're going to take is the 110. So you're going to read the 101 and the 110 book, right? Well, let's just say the second week of Audio Workstations, you sit down, you crack open the book, and I love timers, so set a timer for say 15 minutes, and then just start reading the book. And when 15 minutes is up, just figure out how many pages you read. It could be 3, it could be 9, you don't know. Well, then I'll give you an idea about how long it's going to take you. So then what I would do is just say, you know what I'm going to do? Every day I'm going to sit down and read and go through this stuff for 15 minutes. You do that for 7 weeks. It's probably not even going to take you that long to get through at least a book and a half or something, And so then you get the email, you finish up that 110, you take your notes, you do a little review, and you study. So you have to approach it from a long-term prospect, because let's just say that you were just like, well, whatever, I learned it all in Audio Workstations, I know what I'm doing, and you lucked out and you took the 110 and you passed. Well, that's going to backfire on you down the road, not only in AAE, but potentially in other classes working up through that too. Yeah. So, it's really about having that strategy for the right way to prepare. So that's how I would recommend to do it. Don't blow it off and wait all the way to do everything in Kendall's class. And then also when it is time to study, just take it light, keep it fun, but also there's got to be a little discipline in there for how you're going to chunk that book to get everything studied.
I do want to jump in and add to that, because I think another good strategy is not only just identifying the answers to those questions, but actually opening up Pro Tools at the same time, because you kind of alluded to that. Opening up Pro Tools at the same time so you can actually understand the behavior of the function that you're reading about in the book, because sometimes you can associate that function with what the answer is, knowing the behavior. When they start to ask you the question on an exam, you kind of know what the end result is going to be right off the bat. And that kind of makes things easier to have some kind of reference points within the software that kind of help you out as far as answering those questions and understanding what you're being asked. That has helped me out a lot.
And on that note too, I'll give you 2 things. One, what I was going to say before, and you remind me of it, is in the book there's always exercises that you get after you read a chapter. go through those, because you might look at one and be like, oh, I know an instrument track, I know about that. But if you just go through that, it's not like somebody just, made it up and it's like, here, tell them to create 3 instrument tracks and put a boom on there, like an instrument plug-in. Like it's well thought out for like these kind of like micro workflows. So definitely work through those, because what it could be is you get to an end of chapter and you're like, oh, I got a good pace. And then you want to skip those exercises because you just want to be able to get through and finish the book. That's one. And then the other one is what Kendall is saying about having Pro Tools open and actually associating what you're reading. Batch rename, it's a function you can do in Pro Tools. Well, there was something in some of the review questions about the way that characters were appearing in batch rename. And so I couldn't actually, the way that the resolution of the print was in the book, I couldn't make out what the character was. So I just opened up Pro Tools and I took a big loop pack, like maybe 20 loops, and they all had a name in front of the loop, the name of the company in front of the loop. So I threw them into the clips list, and then I just did a quick batch rename on all those, and I used what I thought the character was, and then I figured out what it was, a pipe symbol, like a vertical divider, and I couldn't tell in the picture. But so, it just going through it, sometimes you read something and you read it 2 or 3 times and you're like, but what? But if you actually open up Pro Tools and then you go step by step, all of a sudden it's like the veil comes off and you totally understand and you have it. It's like you remember it then. So, connecting that together between it is a text-based test, but at the same time, your practical operation will help to solidify your visual understanding of what you're going to answer because they're multiple choice and true and false type of questions in the test.
It makes me think that, we're spending this time doing this town hall, and I think sometimes students don't understand the importance of actually having a Pro Tools certification. And I say that because I don't know of any other DAW, digital audio workstation, in which somebody is actually looking for a certification other than Pro Tools, right? I've seen people get jobs because they have this certification. I've been reached out to because I have the certification, just from complete strangers asking me to come in and operate for one of their sessions or something like that. So when it all comes down to it, if I was hiring 2 people and both of them were telling me that they had 10 years worth of Pro Tools experience, I'm going to lean to the one that has the certification, because that certification tells me that they have been using Pro Tools the correct way, all right? Instead of 10 years of bad habits of doing things absolutely wrong. So keep that in mind, that yes, this can really help beef up your resume. Big time.
Yeah. So why don't we say, is there any questions that have come in at all? Anything we can answer in terms of something that we haven't covered yet?
Okay. 1 second. We can pull up to our slide with the questions.
So back here, we're having a lot of fun with the internet, and by fun, I mean it just keeps dropping out. So some of the viewers are following us on this roller coaster of a stream, but Paul is one of them and happens to ask, what happens once we graduate from school? What is the cost of the test if we did not pass the first time?
All right, so to answer that question, let's see. While you are still a student here and you are taking the exams, you have 2 attempts per test, in which you don't have to pay anything. On the 3rd attempt, I believe Avid does charge a fee for an additional attempt once you have done those first 2 attempts. I'm not sure what the price is.
It's like less than $50.
Yeah, I want to say it's like $29. I want to say it's around that ballpark. But 2 attempts is more than enough. As far as being a Full Sail student, you have up until graduation to take these exams.
Yeah, so and just to reinforce what Kendall said, that's what you have to watch out for, and that's why we're stressing about making sure you stay on track, because you really just want to be doing the final test when you get to Kendall. You don't want to be stacking everything in there at the end. So if you keep it spaced, then you're not going to have a whole bunch of work to do, because you need to finish that. Like graduation, that's the deadline.
That's the cutoff.
So if you don't finish by graduation, then, you know, it's kind of, there's not much you're going to be able to do about that. So you really want to make sure that you finish before graduation. And again, I'm being a little redundant here, so it's like Audio Workstations email. You know, if you're kind of freaking out about it, touch base with me. I'll give you a strategy, and then we can get you buttoned up within like a 30-day, maybe a little bit more period, and then you'll be ready for when you get to Kendall down the road.
Gotcha. We got a second question here. What's that second question?
Right. So Gil asked, does the first exam have questions from the first book only, or could there be, questions from both the books in the first exam?
So if we're talking about Pro Tools Specialist Certification, that test is built from the 101 and the 110 books. So 101 and 110 books means you are going to take the 110 test. So anything inside of those two books is fair game. And then like Kendall was saying, 201 and 210, that's going to be,
And
you're
the
taking
210.
the 210 test. So yeah, anything inside of those two volumes per those two levels, that's material that'll be on the test. That's why I was saying, especially early on, that 101 assessment, that's a nice kind of reality check to see where you are, because if you totally bomb that, and all you got to do is just go back and study up and review, and then you'll be prepared for when you actually need to use that attempt to take the test.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I can give some good advice when it comes to taking the professional level exam. You're not going to be able to pass that exam on sheer knowledge of Pro Tools without studying those books. It's a little bit more intuitive, and it's going to take some study and some practice and some actually dabbling in Pro Tools. But it's not going to be one of those things that you're going to sit down and be like, I've been using Pro Tools for a year, I'll pass it. No, that's not going to work. Trust me, I still have to study for that exam.
Yeah, and again, maybe I'm being a little bit redundant, but it's all about your study strategy. You know, if you go into the study process and you realize, like, this is not going to be, it's not a quiz, okay? It's not a quiz, and I say that with the utmost sincerity. It is a true certification test, and so you've got to treat it like that. You know, you got to be able to say, you know, okay, I'm going to take this test in 3 weeks, and I'm going to give myself a command and obey it, and I'm going to be disciplined, and I'm going to read this number of chapters a day, and I'm going to diligently study and review. And you know, you got to have that, again, self-discipline to do it, because if you just kind of blow it off and you're like, well, it's not going to be fun first and foremost, and it should be fun. You know, you should take it, you know, like a fun challenge, but a seriously fun challenge.
Fun challenge, yes. Let's talk about these badges real here for a second here. So before they used to give like a PDF certificate. Now we deal with these digital badges, which I think are really cool because they have all this metadata contained within it that kind of pretty much a potential employer can actually look at this badge and know exactly what you're qualified to do. So I think that's a really cool feature in the fact that you can kind of use it in the digital domain. I find it to be very modern. So I'm very excited about this new badge process rather than having that PDF certificate.
Yeah, and so one thing to keep in mind too is, you know, some students have already kind of interacted with the old process of certification. And so let me give you an example. Somebody had, say, months ago, let's say in January, somebody took the certification test and they took the 101, right? Well, that's good, because if they pass the 101, they know that they know some material. Well, at that time, now remember, I'm talking about something that doesn't exist anymore, but at that time, if they passed the 101 or the 110, there were, and I don't want to make it too perfect because it doesn't even matter anymore, but there were certificates, whether it was a 200 or a 100 level certification, you would get this PDF certificate that would be posted inside of your Avid account. And you could go in there and click and see there was a little PDF, and you could print that out and hang it on the wall, or you could maybe print it out and stick it with your resume or something like that. But like Kendall's saying, now with these digital badges, you know, and this one is the professional certified badge. So in the badge, like Kendall was saying, there's the way to store additional information. So if you put that up in your LinkedIn or you put it on other social media, then potential employers, they can get that information out of the badge. And so it's a very legitimate way to say that you're Pro Tools certified, because, unfortunately, if it's a PDF, somebody can make up a bank statement easily. Somebody can make up a certification certificate if they were that shady, and I hate to bring that up, but it does happen, right? So with the digital badge, that kind of it's just a whole new territory for the way that you get recognized for your certification. So again, if you're kind of accustomed, perhaps you've been around Full Sail for a year or so already, and you're acclimated to that older way, you probably could, if you've already done the 101 and 110, you could have received a notification about receiving a digital badge from Credly. And if you were like, oh, I don't know what that is, and then it's like still sitting in your email, you might want to pick that back up and read it, because it does have some good information about how the badge works and things like that. And if you have questions, you can message me or message Kendall, and we can help you out.
Absolutely.
And just real quick, so on Full Sail 1, if you go to Full Sail 1 and you find the Pro Tools Club, inside of there is a little section for Pro Tools certification. And so some of that is Pro Tools certification times related to students that are on campus, but also in there are all the emails for the instructors that are related to the Pro Tools certification. So you would find my email in there, and you'd find Kendall's email in there, and that would be an easy way to get a hold of us.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. A quick question. Okay. Go ahead with your question.
So we have a student here who is looking to figure out how to get back to retake the test.
I'm
They
sorry.
are still in school.
I'm sorry. Say that louder. I didn't hear it.
Oh, no problem. A student here is wondering how they can get back to take the test, to retake it, as they are still in school.
Okay, so that student will have to email one of their instructors, depending on where they are, if they're still in school. For instance, if they had already taken my class and they gained eligibility in my class, then they will be emailing me. If the last class that they were able to get eligible in, as far as Pro Tools certifications are concerned, was Brad's class, then they would definitely have to email him to actually get back into taking another attempt at the exam.
Let me just enrich that a little bit too. So when the student initially was notified about Pro Tools certification, they were sent an email. In the subject of the email, it said Pro Tools certification, and so there's some verbiage in there, and there's some bullet pointing in there, and in that email it says, if you have passed and you need to move on to the next test, or if you failed and you need a reset, respond to this email, because that email has the month that you took the class, it has your degree program, and so the official response is find that email, respond to it, and then that interaction for a reset can take place from there. But if you just, because there are some students that don't follow that protocol, and they say, hey, I failed the test, I need a reset. And so what I say is, hey, do me a favor, search your email for Pro Tools certification, find the email that was sent to you notifying you, and then reply to that email, because there's information that will just streamline that process so we can get you reset, as best as possible.
That's a very good point, actually. Very good point. Any other questions? Any more questions? Okay. All right, so I think we covered some of these already, right? If we
Yeah.
go back to some of your questions there.
Yeah.
How you're notified by email, right? How to prepare, we talked about that. What do you do if you don't pass the first time? We talked about the different attempts and actually getting back in touch with your instructors.
And just real quick, again, not to be redundant, but the important thing is replying to that email. Because again, what some students will do is they don't pass the test, and then they'll send a message inside FSO because they're like, oh, I took audio workstations, or I took advanced audio editing techniques. So, the normal thought would be, oh, well, I'll just message my instructor from that class. But again, you're just going to get a reply back that says, hey, please look for Pro Tools certification email, because when you reply to that, I'll have all the information that I need. So if you don't pass, don't request it inside FSO for a reset. Make sure you find that notification. Pro Tools certification is the keyword that you're looking for, that we can respond to you.
Yep. Keep that email when you get it,
Yeah,
regardless, right? Because that does kind of point us in the right direction. That really does help us out a lot if you stay within that thread. Anything else we need to cover here? We talked about strategy here.
I think we got the strategy, of course, the badges we covered, and then completing tests by graduation. You know, again, that's just really crucial too.
Yeah.
And then, you know, again, you know, repeating myself again and reiterating Kendall, you know, keeping on pace with the way the tests are showing up so that you don't get to Kendall and then all of a sudden you've got 4 books to read in 3 months. You know, that's going to be the overwhelming part of it.
On top of your other classes.
Yeah, on top of the classes that you're going to take too.
I think I see a lot of students really get to that point and it's kind of overwhelming. And it doesn't seem like they get some breathing time to somewhere like the last 2 weeks. You know, so I get a slew of emails and they're like, yeah, I graduate in 2 weeks. I'm trying to get all these exams done. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, and that you know, 2 weeks, like, I mean, I hate to say that things aren't possible, but 2 weeks to read 4 Pro Tools books and actually be able to absorb the material, that just feels overwhelming to me. And I've read a lot through the Pro Tools books, and anybody that I think, you know, is part of Full Sail that's been part of the certification process would probably agree that, you know, you would have to treat it like a full-time job and have nothing else to do to really pull that off, and you would still be uncomfortable with it.
Yeah, over the years I've warned a lot of students about waiting to the last minute, and it's not impossible. I can count on 2 fingers how many people have actually done it within a week or 2, but it's highly unlikely.
I tell you, from the time you get the notification email, 10 pages a day, I think you could pull it off reading 10, 15 pages a day and still meet your deadline and be comfortable and actually absorb the material and have, you know, have some long-term retention on it as well.
Absolutely, absolutely.
How are we doing on questions? Anybody else
We
have
got one
questions?
coming in right now.
Okay.
Go ahead with your question.
So a student is asking, what if they did not earn the required grade to take the test?
It depends on which class we're talking about. Now, let's say they go through Brad's class first and they didn't get the required grade for eligibility. Sorry, but you have another chance when you get to my course. So if you do get the eligibility in my course and without not having gotten eligibility in Brad's course, then you will be able to take all the exams. You just have a shorter period of time, but you have that second win to kind of go at it again.
You know, the one thing that I'm reminding myself of here is that, how do I want to say this? If you were to get to Kendall's class because you didn't get the required grade in my class, and you were really careful about it, you would still be okay. You'd still be able to comfortably, over 3 months, I think it is. I think you could pull that off. I know you could pull that off. You just have to be disciplined. But, you know, again, if you miss it in my class, you know, it's a strict requirement from Avid that it's an 85. So if you get an 82, then, you know, you can't have the opportunity. You have to hit an 85 or higher. So if that doesn't happen in my class, like Kendall said, fortunately, you will wait some time, but then you will be able to be eligible. If you miss it for Kendall's class, then, you know, that opportunity has passed, unfortunately.
And then keep in mind, by the time you make it in my class, you probably used Pro Tools in a few other classes before. Maybe it helped build up your confidence of actually, oh, I got another chance to go towards certification. Let me do great in this class so I can make sure I get eligibility and go for it then. So it is.
You know, and what's interesting is it seems as if there's students start to get excited about Pro Tools once they take audio workstations, because I do run into students afterwards and they'll tell me how they're doing more of their certain types of projects in Pro Tools. But it seems like by the time they get to Kendall, it seems like a lot of them are kind of like into it, like they're using Pro Tools almost exclusively, and so there's much more, don't let me say it that way, there's much more familiarity with Pro Tools. And so, you know, when you're building up and now you're getting into Kendall's class and you're learning advanced audio editing techniques. The class is what it says on the label, but now you're learning advanced Pro Tools concepts too. So I'm actually kind of excited saying that for you, to know where you'll be when you get into Kendall's class, because you'll have a whole new view. You'll be looking out the window on the 10th floor of the hotel.
Yeah. And the good thing about that is by the time I get different levels of Pro Tools, I get people that were super excited about Pro Tools and audio workstations and did a great job and really stuck with it then. And I get some people that's kind of like, still standoffish. I passed audio workstations, I'm good, I'm gonna leave Pro Tools behind after that point. And then I get these different levels of Pro Tools, knowledge and use. But my class really kind of forces everybody to kind of streamline a little bit. It will catch up the people that left it to the wayside once they left you.
Yeah.
And it's just a lot of fun for the people that just totally embraced it from you. So I can see people's idea about Pro Tools really change in my class a lot. I'm like, oh my gosh, I learned a lot about Pro Tools. Wish I would have paid attention to audio workstations a little bit better or something like that. Yeah. I get that a lot though.
Yeah, that's funny. I just thought of a quote, and again, it's just about preparing for the tests and not overthinking that part of it, But there's a saying that I heard recently that work expands to fill the time allotted for it. So it's like when you get that notification that you have become eligible for Pro Tools certification, just know this is the one, and I know I'm repeating myself, but if you get that notification, you're going to associate with Full Sail, and then the first thing you do, if you haven't done yet, is you take that 101 book and you crack it open and you set a timer for 15 minutes on your phone. I would put the phone on DND too, so you don't get disturbances like I do, because it's easy to get distracted. But you put that 15 minutes on the phone and you just start reading. And you don't try to rush. You make sure, if it takes you 15 minutes to read a paragraph, that's fine. That's going to be your pace. But we're not reading a novel, right? We're talking about larger fonts. We're talking about things that are broken up on a page. So, one page of the Avid book, because of the instructional material that's in there, I'm not discounting the way that it's formatted. I'm just saying that if you're reading a textbook that was filled with, paragraphs, it might be, it's a different approach. That's all I'm going to say. So you sit down and you read for 15 minutes, you see how you do, boom. Now you can map out about how long you think it's going to take you to read the book, right? So that's the strategy that you take, because what you want to do is when you get the email, you want to be excited about it. You don't want to think about, okay, how am I going to avoid this until I finally convince myself that I'm going to do it? You just figure out a way to make it happen. If it's like, well, I can't read every day. All right, well then read every 3 days, and just read for 20 minutes every 3 days. But I mean, it should be a fun process. You just have to have, like I said, a strategy to get through it.
What was that quote again?
Work expands to fill the time allotted for it.
Bars.
That's great.
Man, I like that quote a lot, man. That's a really good quote there. Any more questions? Okay, cool. All right. So, looks like we covered most of everything that we have here. All right. So we would like to thank you guys for tuning in to the Audio Production Town Hall. Keep in mind that we do these town halls on various audio subjects. Monthly is typically the last Monday of your course month or your class month. So make sure you check FSO to tune in to these these town hall meetings as well. We'd like to thank our show production students from Audiovisual Technologies? Yeah, Audiovisual Technologies, and John Cost and everybody that's working behind the scenes to kind of keep this nice production going on here. And we'd like to thank you guys for tuning in. Appreciate you.
Thank you.